Today, in our high school AP Biology class, we are going to be learning about one of the four biological macromolecules, carbohydrates. I'm sure many of you have been told by your coaches to carb up before a game. This is because carbohydrates give us an immense amount of energy that our bodies need to carry on everyday processes. If you intake a large amount of carbohydrates before a game, then not only would you be fueling your cells for the everyday processes they need, but you'd also be storing the excess amount so that it can be used later when needed, such as during a game or a race. The purpose of this presentation is to teach about carbohydrates and their structure and function. It will also be understood as to why carbohydrates are important to living organisms. Different instructional strategies and methods that can be used to teach about carbohydrates will be presented, as well as areas of research and resources to expand over the topic of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are one of the four biological macromolecules found in all living things. They are considered one of the building blocks of life, along with lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. All four of these macromolecules contain carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen in their molecular structure, with proteins adding in nitrogen, and nucleic acids then adding phosphorus to the other four atoms. Carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen can be found in a 1 to 2 to 1 ratio in carbohydrates. Macromolecules can be made of monomers and polymers. Monomers are small building blocks that bond to make polymers. Carbohydrates are said to be one of the most important of the four biological macromolecules, since the cell would not be able to function without energy. They are more commonly known as sugars and are most notable for fueling the body's processes, along with their ability to store energy. Carbohydrates provide the quickest form of energy that helps cells carry out their everyday functions. They also provide a section of the backbone in DNA and RNA. The sugar found in the DNA backbone is called deoxyribose, and the sugar found in RNA backbone is called ribose. Carbohydrates have other functions such as providing structural support for plant cells, fungi, as well as arthropods. Carbohydrates are the most abundant molecules found in nature. Carbohydrates can be placed into three different categories when being classified. They can be classified as a monosaccharide, a disaccharide, or a polysaccharide. These three categories of carbohydrates are classified based on how many monomers of sugar they are made from. Monosaccharides are the monomers that build the other two categories. Other factors that set each category apart include solubility, taste, reducing properties, and chemical structure. Monosaccharides are known as simple sugars and are considered the building blocks of more complex sugars. They are classified by how many atoms of carbon they contain in their structure. Monosaccharides are soluble in polar substances such as water. The chemical structure is simple and is shown as linear and unbranched or as a single ring. More often than not, they are found as rings. Earlier, I pointed out that carbohydrates include carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen in a 1 to 2 to 1 ratio. Take a look at the graphic on the slide. As you can see, there are 6 carbons, 12 hydrogens, and 6 oxygens in the glucose molecule. When those are reduced, it comes out to a 1 to 2 to 1 ratio. Some common examples of monosaccharides include glucose, fructose, and galactose. These types of sugars are sweet to taste. Glucose can be found in fruits and is considered the most common monosaccharide found in nature. Organisms, such as animals, use a process called cellular respiration to make their energy from the things they eat. During this process, glucose is broken down in a stage called glycolysis, which provides the energy needed for the rest of the cellular respiration to take place. The leftover glucose that's not needed can be stored for later use or can be bonded with other monosaccharides to form more complex carbohydrates. Another common monosaccharide is fructose. Fructose has the same chemical formula as glucose, but its structure is just a little bit different. You can find fructose in items such as honey, fruits, and soft drinks. Galactose is another common monosaccharide. Galactose is most commonly found in milk products, even though small amounts can be found in fruits and vegetables as well. The second classification of carbohydrates are disaccharides. Disaccharides are formed when two monosaccharides join with the help of covalent bonds during a process called dehydration reactions. During a dehydration reaction, a hydroxyl group is removed from one of the monosaccharides while a hydrogen is removed from the other. Those two pieces then join together to make a water molecule. When disaccharides go through the reverse process of breaking down, a water molecule is then added. This process is called hydrolysis. In the graphic, you can see that a molecule of glucose bonded to a molecule of fructose, two of the most common monosaccharides, to form a molecule of sucrose. Disaccharides are found in many types of foods since they include combinations of different monosaccharides. They are also added into foods and drinks as a source of sweeteners. Three of the most common disaccharides are sucrose, lactose, and maltose. Table sugar is one of the most common types of disaccharides that we can consume. This product is found in many types of foods and drinks. Lactose is found in milk and is associated with different digestive disorders, such as lactose intolerance. Many candies use maltose as a form of sweetener. These can also be used in chocolates. Polysaccharides are larger molecules that are composed of many monosaccharides. Polysaccharides can take on different structures depending on which monosaccharides bonded together. Because of the different structural differences, polysaccharides can have an array of functions such as storing energy, acting as chemical messengers, and providing support and structure for cells and tissues. Notice the graphic of a polysaccharide on the slide. Not only does it have a spiraling effect, but it also branches out from the spiral. These structures are much more complex than their simple monomers of glucose. Some common polysaccharides include starch, cellulose, pectin, and glycogen. Starch, along with glycogen, are some of the most notable storage units within the polysaccharide community. One of the most starchy foods we can eat are potatoes. Glycogen can be found stored up in the liver and skeletal cells of animals. Not only is glycogen responsible for energy storage, but it helps to control glucose levels. Cellulose is a structural polysaccharide that is formed in plants. The cell walls of plants are made of cellulose, which consists of hundreds to thousands of glucose monomers that join to produce long fibers. Cellulose can go on to make hard structures such as wood. Fungi also have cell walls made of chitin, which is another product of polysaccharides. Chitin can form things such as shells and structures of marble and limestone. Pectin is another type of polysaccharide that is found in the cell walls of fruits and vegetables. When a person is making jelly or jam, the pectin from the cell walls of the fruit combine with the sugar in the cooking process to help make the gelling process happen. The structure of carbohydrates can be taught with the use of hands-on activities that use toothpicks and different colored marshmallows. The students can choose which carbohydrate to model. Each colored marshmallow can signify a different element found in the structure. The toothpicks can help shape the structure and can even serve as the bonds that connect the different monosaccharides. Different colored toothpicks can be used to show the different types of bonds found in those saccharides. Even though carbohydrates are a necessary nutrient to consume, at times it is important to limit the intake of them when certain diseases are present in the human body. One disease that can be studied in connection with carbohydrates is diabetes mellitus. An example of a lesson that can deal with this topic covers it with the use of a video, notes, and a lab where styrofoam model of a hepatic cell along with a biscuit model is presented. This can relate the topic to something they see and hear about in real life. Computer-assisted instruction along with hands-on demonstrations have proven to enhance the learning and retention of subject matter when teaching about carbohydrates. Games can be used to teach the structure and function of carbohydrates. After researching teaching strategies that can be used in teaching the structure and function of carbohydrates, an article reviewed 2 games that can be used called What is the Carbohydrate? And Mastering the Metabolism. In What is the Carbohydrate? A stack of cards are used with different carbohydrates found on them. The players ask each other yes or no questions to try and guess which carbohydrates their counterparts are holding. In Mastering the Metabolism, stacks of cards are used in a domino stack type of fashion. The cards are used to simulate the pathway of carbohydrate metabolism. Students can compare the amount of pectin in different types of fruit. They can design an experiment that would compare the ability of different fruits to gel when sugar is added during the making of jellies and jams. Research over different diseases and disorders that can be caused by deficiencies, excesses, or lack of breaking down of carbohydrates can be researched and studied for expansion over the topic. Diabetes mellitus and lactose intolerance are 2 good topics to expand knowledge over carbohydrates in the human body. Diabetes and lactose intolerance are 2 topics that are pretty much common known diseases or disorders that kids are used to. Many students may be lactose intolerant. They may also have family members that are diabetic. So these 2 topics would be great topics for them to expand their knowledge of carbohydrates on. Students can also study the structure of plants by looking at plant cells under a microscope. Research over the composition of different exoskeletons in various insects and organisms can also be conducted. The effects of keto diets and carbohydrates on the liver can be used as a great research project. There are many fad diets that many students have heard of or have even taken part in, or their family members might have taken part in different dieting fashions and fads that are going on. Some of those are low-carb diets, keto diets where they get their body to go into ketosis. All of those types of diets can have effects on the liver that stores the carbohydrates. And so those are some topics that would be great for students to research and expand their knowledge on. There are lots of other things that students can do to enhance the knowledge that they have over carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are also, or any of the macromolecules, are topics that are a little bit harder to teach and to understand. It has been studied that many biology teachers and chemistry teachers are not prepared to teach things like that, mainly because they do not have the resources available at their schools to conduct those types of research. So without having to do a lot of those hands-on things, there could be a lot of research projects they can do where they can research over the topic on the computer.